Hello, my name is James Heidema. I'm a strategic coach and an international trainer, and it's my pleasure to sit here with my son, my eldest boy, Paul. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Dad. My name is Paul Heidema, his son, obviously, and I'm an executive coach, and I really work in the space around leadership and agile and helping people become the best version of themselves.
Great, excellent. Well, Paul is absolutely the apple of my eye. We have similar approach to life, and we're pretty happy at what we're doing because we're able to make a difference in people's lives. And today we're going to talk about passion. Okay, so the subject today is passion. Both of us bring passion to our respective jobs. So, Paul, what does passion mean to you?
I guess it starts off with what really matters to you inside your heart, what you care about, and then how do you actually express that in a way that resonates or connects with others. It's usually where I start.
Yeah, for me, passion is the definitive difference between the good and the great. You know, of those people that excel, the people who are self-made, successful people in their life, have such passion for what they're doing. Think of people like Bill Gates and Ronaldo, the soccer player, or football, if that's what you call it in that part of the world. But these people just sort of throw their whole lives into what they're doing, and that enthusiasm, that energy comes across. And when you're in the company of these people, you know you're in the company of someone who's different, quite unique. So,
Sure. Yeah, as my dad's saying, I absolutely agree. And I wonder about those people that actually shift their career or their profession into something that is so much passion that it doesn't feel like work. It feels like joy. It's like bringing light to the world, which is where both of us really love to do that with whoever we come in contact with. And we're lucky in our work that we get to do that kind of work.
yes. Well, you know, find something valuable, find an audience who's willing to pay for it, and that's rewarding to you intuitively and intrinsically. And you know, I'm just thinking about coaching, because I do a lot of coaching with a fair number of people, and I really enjoy it because I live vicariously through them. They do the heavy lifting without question. They're the ones out there in the front line, but I'm the one that sort of guides them along the path and helps them overcome any of those obstacles they may face. And so I just love it when I interact with these people, then the light goes on because they capture their own passion. And you know, I think about motivational factors. I mean, there's things that drive us, you know, things like money, prestige, recognition, achievement, self-esteem, family life. There's a whole bunch of things that drive us, and each of us is a little different. And so when we find those things that address those motivations, appease those motivations, or in fact enlighten or enlarge or cause those passions to grow, there's such excitement. And when I see that happen in someone's eyes, it's just so thrilling to see their eyes light up and they capture it, you know?
Absolutely. I've had numerous opportunities to talk with people when they don't have their passion, when you can see that there is no glimmer in their eyes. And I love when I've built enough trust, because obviously you can't really do anything or have a big impact on someone's life if you don't build trust first. So you build trust, and then after you build trust, you can have some very great heart-to-heart conversations, some of which have led people to leave careers and leave countries so they can explore what they really want to do. And one particular person, she was in a project management role. She was having a really hard time doing it. She understood the mission. She cared about the mission of the company, but it wasn't her mission. And then once her and I had some conversations, and obviously she did, as you said, for your coaching clients, she did the heavy lifting and she explored. And then she ended up moving to Germany and completely changing her life. And I reached out to her a couple of years ago, and she said she's so much happier, and it was just amazing that she took that leap.
Nice, nice. You know, one of the individuals I coach is in Lithuania, and his name's Ginteras, and I had a session with him a few days ago, and my son Paul was in the room, so I introduced my son Paul to him, and Ginteras asked him, "What do you do, Paul?" And Paul responded with something, I'm paraphrasing, and Paul can talk a bit more about it, but something that you said to him, you said you bring out the best in people. And I think that's what I try to do in my coaching as well. But what do you mean by bringing out the best in people?
So, yeah, I love doing that. I love zeroing in on where I see their abilities and their passion, their skills, and then trying to help them pay attention to that more. So I'll give you an example. I'm working with an AVP at one of my clients right now, and she's someone that, in her own words, is like a mother hen. She really cares for her team and her people, which I think is phenomenal, and we need more of that in corporate life. And she always feels sometimes, or she's shared with me sometimes, that she feels she has to mimic the men and act in a certain way, instead of actually paying attention to her own strengths, which is really around being there for people, really listening to them, helping them achieve what they want to achieve. And so as we've been having these coaching sessions, she's been exploring that, and I've been helping her think through how does she bring out the best in her staff as I help her bring out the best in who she is, right? And it's fascinating to see the shift, because she went to this point where she thought, oh, I'm never going to get anywhere, to now, like, I'm excited, I'm energized, I want to move, right?
Often I say to people that I'm coaching that when it comes to your strengths and weaknesses, that you should maximize your strengths and manage your weaknesses. And, I've heard that similar thing that you've just said, that people feel, they look at successful people and they often feel they have to behave that way to be successful. But sometimes that's goes against, or it's counter to their style, their behaviors, their motivations. And so I agree with Paul that really our job as facilitators and coaches is to bring the best out in people, is to create an environment where they really understand their strengths and weaknesses. And we help them, I think we help them to sort of manage their weaknesses, to manage those obstacles. So it allows indeed space for their strengths to sort of grow larger and expand, and they become more the person that they should be. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's this great quote or story I heard from Simon the Sinek a couple of weeks ago. He was talking about this idea of if you focus on obstacles, you focus on the weakness, that's all you see. So the example he gave is if you're a skier and you're skiing downhill, and if you say to a skier, don't hit the trees, all you're going to focus on the trees and you're going to go right into it. And he says instead, what they do, those that are really skilled in this space, they say focus on the path. What is the path? And you won't even notice the trees. You'll just kind of go through them as if they're no big deal. So I think you're absolutely right. It's how do you focus on your strengths? How do you improve them? How do you maximize their impact on others and on yourself? And the things that are your weaknesses or obstacles, leave them aside. Let others handle that are skilled in that space, so you can focus on your strengths.
One of the most interesting things, Paul, that I like about coaching is that to get into people's heads and understand the conversations they have in their head. Often the conversation you have in your head is the one that's going to prevent you from excelling. If you put in all those obstacles, and just as the skier, focusing on what may happen rather than what the opportunity is. And so if we can help people to adjust their story that they're telling themselves about their reality, often they'll find their strengths that they didn't realize were there before.
And you do something that's really interesting. I know that over the last few years, or maybe many decades, I'm not sure, that you spend a lot more time on self-care for your mental well-being, which I think is really powerful. And a lot of men don't do it, and it's very impressive you do that. And I know that you do meditation, but I also know that you do self-talk, positive self-talk. Can you talk about what that is and how you use it?
Well, I guess because I'm an emotional being, because I think a coach has to be emotional, I think a coach has to really care deeply about the people they're working with. There's a phraseology I like that I think applies to coaching when you're coaching people, which is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so you have to go into a caring attitude. It can't be just a function of process. It has to be a function of that personality, of really caring about the individual's development. And this self-talk that Paul alluded to is because I'm an emotional being, I can get affected very easily by the environment. I can be adversely affected by negative people or violent movies or, stressful situations. So I try to avoid those. And so one thing I don't do is I don't watch the news ever. I know that there's bad things happening in the world, and the interesting thing is something bad happens, someone will tell you about it, but I don't go looking for it. I don't read the newspapers. I don't go and Google negative things. I'm very careful about the movies I watch. I'm very careful about the people I hang around with. And if I'm in the presence of a very negative person, I will try to avoid them, just because that will have an effect on me. So, and yeah, I do meditate. I don't meditate as often as I'd like to, but I do meditate on a regular basis, and that helps calm down my soul, and so, and for me to be effective as a human being, as a father, as a husband, as a coach, is I have to have my act together. I have to be the example of someone who's calm and focused and not being sucked into those negative stories that a lot of people carry around in their heads, And I often say to people, because I deal a lot with financial advisors and managers of financial advisors, and they're out there selling and marketing their services, and I said, the only competition you really have is what's happening in your head, and so that self-talk is really important. Give yourself positive messages. I mean, if you follow me on Facebook, I continue to load positive messages, not only for you, but for me.
Yeah, actually, that fits very well with the concept of, you can be your own worst enemy. But I like that you flipped it, and you can actually be your own best friend. You can be your best supporter by actually giving yourself the right kind of messages. Yes, we make mistakes. Yes, we're not perfect. And that's nice and all, but that's not helpful dialogue. The helpful dialogue is, I'm going to make an impact today. I will show kindness today. It'll make their day just a little bit better. Yeah. And that ripple effect, right? So I know you coach all these different people. And I love that you do that. And I've heard, because you're staying with us these last couple of weeks, I love that I get to hear some of the dialogue you have. And a lot of the stuff you do, I think, it's both practical, but it's very kind, which I think is missing from the coaching space a lot. Which is, I know you're going through this thing, and let's go back to what worked for you before. Let's think about that. Let's think about the message you're saying here. Let's pull that apart for a second, and let's talk about what you need. And then you can do this. You have done this. Remember when you did this? You can do this too. I think it's really important that people remember that, because we get way too much destructive conversation and dialogue. Mm-hmm. And you can't get to your passion if there is no support.
Well, it's like this phraseology, which I do not respect, called constructive criticism. Mm-hmm. There's nothing constructive about criticism because you don't empower, you disempower people. I want to talk a bit about Paul, and let's see how much I can embarrass him. I have a love affair with him. He's my son. I have 2 sons, and I love them differently but equally. And this one that's sitting beside me right now is the apple of my eye, which is, he's the guy that I really admire. I admire my other son, Chris, of course. But I'm talking about Paul now. Paul, interesting thing, he is probably one of the most optimistic people I've ever met in my life, son. And and I remember when you were a kid that some of your friends would complain to me, and they would say, "Would you ask him to stop, because he's positive about everything." And he is, because he can always see what's possible, and I want to tell this little joke. It's a little off color, but not too bad, and it's about this little girl that wants to get a pony, and so she's bugging her parents forever and ever. She wants a pony, and all they have is a dog. And so one night before Christmas, she's in their parents' face again. I want the pony. And so they said, well, no, we can't really get a pony. We live in an apartment and everything. But they have a dog. And so that night, by the Christmas tree, the dog decides to go to the bathroom and leave a gift behind. And so the little girl comes down. She's excited. And the parents say, what are you excited about? The little girl says, well, with this stuff on the floor that the dog left me, there must be a pony around here somewhere. That's the cornerstone of optimism. But really, back to
find the possibilities.
But really, seriously, is I love my son. I love both of them. I love Paul for his level of enthusiasm and his commitment to the people that he works with, that I really, truly admire. And it's very much a case of the son surpassing the father. I think he does a much better job of working with his team than I do. With the people that he's able to consult with, he works very hard at it, and he's rewarded for it, of course. But I learn from him as much as he learns from me.
It's funny you talk about that. This apple of my eye concept is one that I wrestle with sometimes, because it does, it puts me on this pedestal of sorts. But I know that we're both humble, and I'm definitely humble with my reality. At the same time, we are somewhat copies of each other. So I'm very much like you, and your energy and your positivity and how you surround yourself. Something that I've admired for years and continue to admire. And I think your approach to life, your approach to work, approach to family, is really around that passion, that joy, that love. And so it's something that I've always thought, well, why wouldn't I do that, right? Which is, I think, one of the things that I'm supposed to do as, your son, is to actually surpass you, not in terms of I achieve better things, but that I take what you've taught and what mom's taught and then find a way to go farther with it. Because you both of you set such an amazing foundation. And I married this amazing person that's also super positive, so it helps. There's a beaming amount of positivity in our lives, right? And so I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, as you can see, we both have passion for what we do, and we bring it to the workplace, and we're able to make a difference. And we encourage you to find your passion and to check out our other videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have comments or you have questions, please share that with us, and be our pleasure, both of us or individually, to answer those. So thank you very much for today.
Thanks for having me, Dad.
Yeah, man. Love you.
Love you too.